Flight boss, bitch, you know, for sure. You're now listening to the Mind of an Antares Moon, Flight boss, the Archangel Uriel, and I'm here to carry out God duties and motherfucking responsibilities. And right now, we're gonna talk about Freemasons. Now, Freemasons is very simple to understand. Like, once you understand the energetic force that something is carrying, the words and shit like that means nothing, because this is one thing you have to understand. In every Bible, or I ain't gonna say every Bible, but you know, they want you to believe that everything was created with the word, right? Now, with everything being created with the word, that lets you know that the word becomes God. Not so when you got religious people and things of that nature, they believe in the word. That's why they always tell you we need, and where they get confused at is the word of. So they'll sit here and tell you need to believe the word of God, but they can't prove to you that it was the word of God. So once you take the word of, take that out of it, then all you got is the word God. So when you take that out of their sentence of you got to believe the word of God, and look at it like you have to believe the word God, then what they're naturally believing, what they're training their subconscious to believe is the word God. So this is why you have to be very careful. Now, when I say I'm here to carry out God duties and obligations, I'm talking about the overall. See, when you come to me, you have to make sure you state your claim. Is you talking about the Christian God? You talking about the Muslim God? Because those are, I'm not talking about those demigods when I say God. You see what I'm saying? So this is why you have religious people who have to state that claim, because they believe the word, and the word was remixed and re-engineered in a bunch of different civilizations. This is why you got a bunch of different words for God. You see what I'm saying? Bunch of different words. And who created that word is the actual God. So if you are a person who say Christian and you got the new Testament or whatever like that, and it got remixed into the English language or whatever like that, then your God is the grammatic, the Northern Seas grammatic people who created the English and the Latin language. That's your gods. You see what I'm saying? Your word don't go past that. So the energy vibration and the frequencies that you putting into it don't go past that. You see what I'm saying? And if you don't realize that, you'll have a misunderstanding of a lot of things. And all this correlates with Freemasons, because let's look at it. Now, before we even get into the term free, because everybody can know what free means, let's go to Mason, right? Now, if you were to type it in on Wikipedia or something like that, they will break it down for you. It will be free, ma, son. So let's go to Mason. Let's go to Mason. I wanna do this first too, and then I wanna type in what a Mason means in general. Now, because look, you got a bunch of people taking words, but they all mean the same thing, and you would think somebody created a word, but that word frequency come and is back to supported by the same thing. So people name things for reasons. Now, a Mason is a builder, a worker in stone. So we got stone here. So we can go back to the Stone Ages. We can go back to things that's written in stone and things of that nature. Somebody gave somebody the authority to write something in stone. Or it wouldn't be passed along. See, if you was just to go outside, just like you used to write in the bathroom and shit like that in your school, if you was to go outside and carve something in the ground, right, that's not necessarily going to be passed on from ages and ages, and people are going to be remembering what you carved in the fucking ground when the street came and redid the street with new tar and shit like that. Whatever rock you took and name you drew in there is not necessarily going to be passed down for civilizations. For something to be passed down, especially passed down within stone, that lets you know something was authorized to do so. You see what I'm saying? Now we're gonna get a little deep. Now we're gonna talk about the backings and the energy vibrations of Masons, so you can know what they're actually doing. So it's a builder and a worker in stone. So that's already getting you a hint of when something's in stone. When is something, they say something is written in stone. Something is written in blood. There go a ritual. There go a cult. Now when I say a cult, that's just doing things behind closed doors. So sex is even a cult. If you having sex out in the open, you're not doing sex in an occultive type nature. But sex came from occultive type things. It's things behind closed doors. Mysticism, that's just communicating without language. Communicating due to vibrations. So when we say rituals, that's the accumulation of both of these things brought together. You see what I'm saying? That's all that is. Like mysticism and a cult, vibrating at a certain frequency and doing it behind closed doors in a small sector of a people who a collective to agree on certain things. That becomes a ritual. Or you could do rituals to yourself. When you go within yourself, have a certain vibration and frequency based upon an idea or an outlook on what you're trying to construct. You see what I'm saying? With the behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? You in your own room somewhere, lighting candles or something when you're doing rituals. You see what I'm saying? So when we look at Mason, now Mason is a builder and worker in stone. So that gives you a long vibration of how far this can actually go. To how things written in stone, written in blood, that's a ritual. When you write write your name, sign your signature on a contract, or sign your signature on whatever, on something like that, that's putting something in stone. So this think about all the reasons you would have to write something down, write your signature down. Think about all the reasons you would have to write your signature down. You either got something to do with the law, banking, a loan, something you're trying to get, a bill. It has to be backed and supported by something for it to even come to a conclusion that you have to sign your signature for something. You have to give your authority for something, and you're giving your authority for something that overrides you, and you're giving that say so and freedom and will to do, keyword freedom, to do what they need you to do. So you see, this Mason word goes into a lot of different frequencies. Now, so we could say we can back support that Mason have something to do with all things that you're legally obligated to sign your signature on. So the main reason that you have to sign your signature have something to do with Masonry. See what I'm saying? On anything. Now, let's break down Mason. Now, let's start with how they break it down. Ma, son. Now, Ma, you could go look this up. M-A. You see what I'm saying? Now, Ma represents one's mother, right? Now, let's look in son. They use S-O-N. You see what I'm saying? But none of this is going to matter once we break this down. S-O-N. Now, what does son represents? Son represents a boy or man in relation to either or both of his parents. So that's a son. You see what I'm saying? So, now, once you take the word and the language, because I don't believe in man's words, I just believe in energy, vibrations, and frequencies and things of that nature, then if I was to use words to describe it, right, then it's like numerology almost, like the backdrop. When we look at Ma, we know Ma doesn't, if you're spiritually inclined and understand vibration, then you will realize that Ma doesn't necessarily, in all realms of realities and things of that nature, Ma doesn't necessarily have to represent a woman or a mother, and we know son doesn't always necessarily have to represent a male. We know in the vibrational context and in the universal law context, Ma could just mean a world, could just mean a womb, could just mean a space that something can come out of. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to call Ma a world, and son is just an extension of that world. You know what I'm saying? Son is just a piece of Ma. It comes from that world. You see what I'm saying? So when you look at the sun comes out, the sun is out in the world of the mother, like some people would say, of Ma, or space, or Ma'at, and things of that nature. Then when you got the sun, the light, they want to tie it to the male deity and things of that nature and say it comes from, you see what I'm saying? So no matter how you correlate it, if you look at Ma like a world, you see what I'm saying, and look at sun like an extension of that world, Ma sun, that's Mason. Mason, a world that can be extended. A worldview that could be extension, could get pieces of it. This is why when you have a dream, say you have children, right? If you have children, If you have a dream about your child, that dream is not about your child. You need to know that. That dream is about an extension of you, a part of you. So when I say that, it's meaning when you see your child in your dream, that means something you're creatively into, something that you're creatively involved in. So if you witness a dream of, like, say you got a child and you dream about your child getting taken away from you or things of that nature, this is representing your creativity walking away from you. You losing your creative aspect of your life. You're losing a part of yourself. You need to get back into your inner self, your inner childhood. You know what I'm saying? Look, the world revolves around you. So all the people, places, and things is things that you manifested. So when you go to the real reality, the real world that you always been in before you took this vessel, the world that experienced all the vessels, that's your shapeless, formless, odorless, non-flammable gas world. Your dream, your soul, your spirit world, your astral world. You see what I'm saying? And in that world, that lets you know that nothing else exists but you. So anything that you physically brought into your world, it represents that. So you're not supposed, when you have a dream about your child, you're not supposed to wake up and be like, oh, I had this dream about you, and you better not do this, or you better not do that. No, that dream was about you, what you need to do, with your and it just played out in the shape and form of your child because of what dimension you in, what realm of reality, what kind of brain you got. You got a third dimensional brain, so you in the third dimension. So the energy can only play out in the way, shape, and form of how you can perceive it, which is third dimensional. And if you got in this dimension, y'all gods is words and things of that nature and meanings and what things look like and how they appear to be. So that's how it got to come to you in your dream. But the people, places, and things truly do not matter. Just the energy vibration that you are experiencing is the only thing that matter. You get what I'm saying? So when you look at it in that way, when you see this is how you know how to decipher your dreams. So if you had a dream about your child, you know that it's not talking about the things that's happening is not happening to your child. This is what's happening to a part of you, an extension to you, your inner child. You know what I'm saying? Your creativity. A child is what you create. So in your dream, it'll play out. That your creativity sometimes will play out in the shape and form of your child. But whatever you're into, it'll play out in those many ways. But I had to make that example because of my son right here. How we're breaking this down right here. So you have to be really spiritually inclined to really understand the world we're in. You see what I'm saying? Now, a lot of Freemasons may not even know this. But they're playing towards these frequency vibrations every day. Just because this is what they call themselves and this is what they're into. So I'm going to break them down even if you're a new Freemason and you ain't even know this is what you was doing. You so lost into the illusions what you think you're doing. You see what I'm saying? But this is what you're actually doing. Now, like I said, my son, Ma, you can look at that as a world. And son, you can look at that as an extension of that world. The creative extension or the creative aspect or a part of that world. You see what I'm saying? Now, that's a Mason. That's a Mason. A world or worldview and extensions of it. So that's my son. So let's look at what Mason means. A builder. A worker in stone. A builder. What happens when you build? You extend on a parameter. You extend on a land. You extend and what you do when we got a worldview and we want to add to it. We're building. Say me and you having a conversation and we want to what? Build on this conversation. We're adding to it. You know what I'm saying? So Masons build. That's what Masons do. Masons build. You see what I'm saying? And let's go to free. You see what I'm saying? Now they build. Now let's go to the free definition because they got free in front of Mason. So we know Ma is a world. We know Sun is an extension of it. So that's a building off that worldview. So Masons build. They like to build, right? Now they got free in front of Mason. Free is not under the control. This is the definition of free. You can go look this up. Not under the control or in the power of another. Able to act or be done as one wishes. Not physically restrained, obstructed, or fixed. Unimpeded. You see what I'm saying? So that's like people are not free in their religion, in the mental mind. People are not free. So when you look at free, they're using free as in the definition that they created for free. They're not even telling you it in no religious text or a mind text or a philosophical text. They're telling you in it. They're telling you what it means in their text. free, not under no control or in the power of another. You see what I'm saying? They're using it in their text, period. So Freemason is a person that's not under, they're free to build. They have freedom to build up under no construct or up under no authority or power up under another. So it becomes like a sisterhood, a brotherhood almost like. Because, so this lets you know, whatever Freemasons are doing, like as far as rituals or spells or whatever you think they are doing, that what they're doing is giving them access to have freedom to build. Like whatever ritual they're doing is giving them freedom to build. Whatever they're coming together to do is giving them freedom to build on something. And now we have to look at it like, what are they building? They're building, let's go back to Ma Sun, a worldview, and they're building extensions to it. So Freemasons have freedom to build on worldviews. So Freemasons, they build worldviews, and they're free to do so based upon their brother or sisterhood. So they build off worldviews. So now that you understand what a Freemason is, now you have to understand this. What does a Freemason actually do? Since that's the energy vibration that they're carrying, what are they actually doing? This is what a Freemason actually is doing, right? They're coming together and they're building on worldviews, which means anything that's allowed to be taught or allowed to be perceived, there's a Freemason involved. And what do I mean by that? For an example, let's say, all right, now let's look at, you might be a person that's in the hood or an area of life that nobody really knows, but you may have a certain creative, you may have invented something, right? Now, say you might have someone who's a Freemason that either stole what you invented or invented the same thing you invented, right? The person who is a Freemason, that theology will be allowed to be taught. You see what I'm saying? Like it will be allowed to be processed through channeling, through, let's say, via TV, or be allowed to be practiced in religion, or be allowed to be practiced in things of that nature. And if the person who invented something, not a Freemason, it won't be allowed to. So it'll be looked down upon in society. It won't be correlated, right? For an example, all right, Freemasons, you got a lot of religious Freemasons, right? Now, a religious Freemason, let's say the King James Bible and things of that nature. The King James and all them are Freemasons, because what happens was all the things, like the Bible is accumulated with a bunch of different books put into one, right? Now, or put together. Now, the books that was created by non-Freemasons, those books are not allowed to be taught, or they're not allowed to be built upon. It don't have the free it don't have the free access to be built it on, to be added parameter to. You see what I'm saying? So those books are not allowed to be taught in religious teachings. So as far as a worldview, as all of us together, those books aren't going to be taught. So anybody who's teaching like the Book of Thoth or the Book of Enoch and stuff like that, those are not religious teachings. So if you was to get into school, or you wanted to be a preacher, or you will probably have to sign, let's get back to that word again, you would probably have to sign a signature on a waiver, or you would have to sign something to agree to the terms and conditions that you shall not teach those teachings. You will only be allowed to teach the teachings that's allowed by the Freemason books, or the books that was approved by Freemasons. You see what I'm saying? So you got Freemasons in a lot of things. You may have Freemasons sorry about that. You may have Freemasons in the Illuminati. You may have Freemasons in religion. You may have Freemasons in politics. You may have Freemasons in business. You may have Freemasons that's atheists. Like Freemasons is a thing that it's like a hood that you go through, and you may need to go through a Templar or something like that, create an altar. And an altar, like when you want to look at an altar and things of that nature, that came from anytime, like an altar is a form of praise or a form of giving to a certain entity. So you may have certain remnants, you may have certain things that you want to offer a certain entity to give back. So that's initially what an altar is, and it goes back to the first people who discovered the constellation Ara. Even if I'm saying it right, A-R-A. You can go do your research on that. The constellation Ara, and that constellation involves with the centaurs also. And you know, when things say like rituals, this goes back to the time of rituals. Like you may have to shed blood or kill a goat, kill an animal or something like that, because through those experiences and through those feelings and frequency vibrations, that entity, that spirit, that's what that spirit eats off of. That's what that spirit like to channel. That's how that spirit, that's what that spirit resonate with to come down. So, you know, a lot of times back in the day, the older civilization Freemasons used to worship certain animals, because certain animals was the vessel of certain spirits that came back, that want to reclaim certain things and things of that nature. So this is why they used to worship certain animals, and the goat, and they use goat blood and things of that nature. And now they worship this, they took it a step lower, and now they just worship Saturn and Capricorn and things of that nature. But that's getting into another video. But for the most part, this correlates back to the it's an offering, and your altar is everything on your altar is supposed to be offerings. So you know, nowadays it got that science that got watered down, filtered through a lot of other shit now, and now you got what you call softcore altars, where people just do things for themselves, because we didn't got into a realm of reality now where people are looking at themselves more as gods now. So the altar is more of a self altar now. It's not of a reaching out to other entities to receive something. Now people look at themselves as gods now. So their altar is resonated with a bunch of things that resonate with them. Like you may have certain gems, certain stones and things that you resonate with. So you will make an altar full of these things that when you sit down in front of this altar, it help accommodates your energies. You know, and that's more of a new age altar. The old age altar wasn't that. It was back in the days when I was here as a vessel and running around back in these civilizations, motherfucker, we was cutting off fucking goat heads, and we was placing this kind of shit on our altar. You know what I'm saying? Certain rocks and shit we have accumulated based upon our experiences we went through when we was going through war. This was the kind of shit on our mind and what we was experiencing. So all these frequency vibrations we brought back and put on our altar was vibrating on that kind of frequency. And entities used to come back, and spirits used to come down and help us in war and help us figure out how to take over land and take over other shit and come up with 90 degrees, aka taking over my portion of land and you got your portion of land. And if we ever have to square off and learn, and that's how we're gonna have to learn from each other, we may have to square off. And this is where authority came from, and fighting over land. It's a lot of deep shit that goes with this shit. Like, I'll be talking for hours. You see what I'm saying? But this is why I encourage everybody to get into astrology, period. Astrology is way deeper than this your natal reading. This is spirituality. This is way past religion. This ain't got nothing to do with none of that shit. This is life. I don't care what person came and named it, try to name it astrology and put Greek names behind this shit and try to make you think what it is. Once you understand energy, it's a wrap. You see what I'm saying? Now, as far as Freemasons and things of that nature, these are people who come together and build worldviews. And they have the freedom to do so based upon the ritual or whatever they're accessing or whatever they're channeling. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times, there's not a lot of people going to know about this because it's occultage. It's a cult-like. So it's behind closed doors. So a lot of times, it's just dealing with family or extensions of the family or extensions of the worldview. People who participate in that worldview, and if they're able to correlate with that worldview, right, then they could be initiated also. And they don't have to share a bloodline. They could just be initiated based off pure imagination and idea, and how well they accommodate themselves with that worldview. For an example, you may be a You may be a person, a musician, or a basketball, or a sport, or entertainer, a business, like someone like Donald Trump in the politics, and you get real famous, right? And you get all this power, right? But your bloodline is not with the Illuminati, right? But you're gonna have that energetic force. This is why people be saying people who blow up like that, they're part of the Illuminati, and this is why a lot of times a person is, but they don't even know they're a part of that shit. And Illuminati is being illuminated, but that's don't have nothing to do with Freemasonry. But you have to be illuminated to understand Freemasonry. You know, I'm illuminated. You see what I'm saying? But for the most part, a lot of musicians are already illuminated. A lot of people who get placed with the responsibility of having a lot of money, or they're responsible for a large amount of other people. This is why you end up being called role models or things of that nature. You're tapped in with an energy of responsibility, of power. So you're already tapped in with dealing with entities that precede you, or entities that's already controlling those wave flows. You know, a lot of times that's the elite and things of that nature. So a lot of times you could blow up and be controlled and be a puppet and not know you're a puppet. And every interview you do, you sincerely talk about it like you're not a puppet, and your moves may even make you think that you're not a puppet because you think your moves is allowed for you to do. But you're only allowed to do the moves in that kind of construct because you're still going along a certain wave, because you went along a certain wave to even become rich like that. You can't come rich the way you make up coming rich. You get rich going up along something. So whatever you invented to retain any money off of it, you going along a process, aka a wave. I don't care how you look at it. Now, for the most part, this wave is already controlled, like I was saying, right? Now, who control this wave is people who conduct this wave as a worldview. So we know Freemasons control this worldview, so they control the wave. So a lot of times, if you're a celebrity, you could be a puppet and not know it, right? So, for an example, it's like you can get initiated the better you keep that worldview up. So say you get real rich and famous because of this certain way. Say you're a musician, right? And the shit that you sing about or rap about or rock and roll about is shit that a Freemason accepts into the world, right? Now you might have this thought you'd have just came up with some entirely new shit or a new idea when really you didn't. You see what I'm saying? So now you get rich and famous off this. So now you're pushing an agenda, whether you know it or not. And you think you're free to do it, but it's just a Freemason behind it. You see what I'm saying? Behind that wave. Now, you get famous for that, right? The moment you try to switch up is when all hell gonna break loose. So that's like, say you blew up off of God. The moment you start saying God ain't real, all hell gonna break loose. Say you blew up off Satanism and being a Satan. The moment you start thinking about that, all hell gonna break loose. Say you blew up making music about this. The moment you stop that, all hell gonna break loose. You switching the agenda now. You switching the wave. And it's gonna be that much harder to go towards the wave. Right? Because your new ideas is not backed and supported by a Freemason. Now, if your idea is, then it will be accepted in some way, shape, or form. But 9 times out of 10, it's not. This is what make people go crazy, do completely career changes and things of that nature. You can look at Colin Kaepernick to a certain degree. Now, but he got a new career. So that's being backed and supported by a Freemason. You see what I'm saying? And things of that nature. The globe earth and the flat earth. Both of those theologies is being pushed by Freemasonry. You see what I'm saying? But let's go. So if you talking about, like, all right, now shout out to Bro Sanchez. You could use him as an example. He's not initiated, right? Now the way he's talking about flat earth is not in the way that a Freemason is accepting it. So he's not going to be accepted. So he's not carrying that worldview in the way that it want to be carried. So he's not going to witness no form of initiation. The same way like celebrities, right? Celebrities, like, now they could reach real big and be allowed and have the freedom to get all this money from that wave that's already created, that's already controlled, right? The moment this person try to change, right, now they're going against code. You see what I'm saying? They're going against it. So But let's look at it this way. Let's say the better that musician or politician, the better they know how to withhold the worldview. The better they know how to swim. What Jay-Z said, know how to swim and know how to move in a room full of vultures. That's just Freemasonry right there. The better you know how to balance, spring off, and keep yourself safe. And the better you know how to withhold this worldview without changing your outlook and crashing that down. The more you're going to be allowed access to the point that if they watching you. So the longer you know how to do this, right, you have the ability to be initiated because they see that you know, and they see that your spirit and the way you look at things is you're willing to hold you have the spirit of the ability to be willing to uphold something and not tear something down. So that's all they need to know. It ain't about what you're into. It's about if you're a true builder or not, and if you have that spirit mind. So they watch you. So if they see that, okay, you're not the type of person who would tear down your own career. You're not the type of person who would do a fucking 360 change in the middle of nothing. They see you're not the type of person that so now they looking at it like, okay, this is a spirit of a, so this is a person that we initiate this person, they already get the idea of what we got going on. Whether we let them know how far we got controlling of things or not. You get what I'm saying? So this is where you get the degrees. How much you're gonna know, how far you're initiated in, how deeply you're initiated in. Like I said, you got a bunch of people who are Freemasons don't even know they're Freemasons. But if they are allowed to access a certain amount of money and teach a certain amount of things, they're initiated in a certain way, shape, or form. See what I'm saying? So it goes even deeper than that, but that's just the basics of it. If you understand the basics of Freemasonry, then you will understand that everything that you see is allowed to be taught. This is why you can't make up a religion and off the bat get support. But you're going to have a bunch of predestined religions out here already that's already for you to learn. That lets you know that it's backed and supported by some form of Freemasonry. Because it have the freedom to be taught. See what I'm saying? So if you're looking at your life right now and you're not free under no circumstance or situation, then I let you know you're not practicing any form of Freemasonry and you're not in any system that allows you to be free, because that system is already ran by Freemasonry. You see what I'm saying? So you would never be free in a job, and you would never be able to rise to take over a job unless it's your own creative business. See what I'm saying? And to get into your own creative business, you have to practice some form of Freemasonry. See how shit is fucked up in this society? Flight boss, bitch. Goddamn air.